you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. A rare day lately, Pierre, where we are working out of our home office. Well, actually, no, you're still on the road, I should say. You were in Massachusetts, but I am back in my New Hampshire home office. But it's kind of like a second home for you still, Pierre, eh?
Oh, yeah. Plus, I'm at a good friend's house, so I'm very grateful for their hospitality. And, yeah, all good.
Yep. It felt good to sleep in my own bed last night, I'll tell you that. You traveled so much more than me over your career, Pierre. I wonder what it must be like, some of the stretches you've had where you're away from home and you don't have the comforts. Obviously, you miss your family, but just the little nuances of just being in your own domain.
16 years in a row, I did 2 straight months of playoffs every year. So
wow.
That's 60 straight nights on the road
And nothing
for 16 years.
And
that didn't count the regular season.
No, exactly. And I imagine nothing compared to the bubble too.
The bubble was 2.5 months in Edmonton. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting stuff. But a man who also traveled a lot during his career as a player is Hall of Famer Chris Pronger, who will be joining us, and Stanley Cup champion, triple gold winner, as you and I were discussing earlier today, one of only 30. Will be joining us shortly here on the Eye Test. I'm looking forward to that. Pierre, you obviously got to know Chris when he entered the league. I wonder, not just for Chris, but for any player who you see grow into a star player like that or go on to win a Stanley Cup, what it must be like for you when you had them early on and you see them mature into the player, not just the player, the person they become.
Well, Chris was a really good player right from the start. We thought he was going to be Larry Robinson. There was a lot of the same similarities in terms of the tenacity. I don't think he had the skating ability of Larry, but he was probably a better passer than Larry. Chris was really tough. And as a 19-year-old, I could see he was going to be a star. Jimmy, one of the things I'm really proud of is we were offered an unbelievable amount of assets to trade Chris when he was 19. And I will never say the names of the other players that were offered to us, but substantial. And we did not, as a group, as a management team, we didn't do it. And it wasn't our management team that eventually traded him away from Hartford to St. Louis. But I would just tell you, you knew right away when he came to training camp the first day, it wasn't about testing. It wasn't about body fat. It wasn't about how long his arms were. You knew right away how good this guy was going to be. He was really special.
Yeah, and I obviously got to cover him a lot over my career, but really up close and personal was during that 2010 series with the Bruins, where the Bruins blew that 3-0 lead. The Flyers made that amazing comeback and won in Game 7. And I just remember he was one of the main things I remember as that comeback started, and just the way he was putting the team on his back and the way he was handling himself with us, the media, and just really determined. He had this look like this guy is on a mission, and he really truly believes that they can pull this off. And of course they did.
What people forget about the 2010 year, he played the Olympics in 98. He played the Olympics in 02. He played the Olympics in 06, and he played the Olympics in 10. Then he went to the Stanley Cup final in 10, and they lost obviously to Chicago. But, that's not the beginning of his career. That's closer to the end of his career.
Yep.
People forget the Stanley Cup final run when he was in Edmonton. People forget the Stanley Cup final that they eventually won in Anaheim in 2007. Like, there are a lot of miles on that body. And that guy played his butt off every single night. And I broadcast a lot of his games. I coached a lot of his games early in his career. I've always been a huge fan and very respectful of the type of player he was early on. You could tell he was going to be really good.
He's been getting more present on social media, Pierre. I don't know if you know that, but a lot of what he does out there, and I want to ask him about this when he joins us, is motivational speech and just, trying to urge people to dig deep, to always believe in themselves and push themselves to take it to another step that maybe they don't think they can get to. And, that I would think, and better, you know him better than me, but that pretty much defined who he was as a player in person.
The one thing I'd say is he was not shy about working hard. Like, I challenged him a lot. I don't think I was very popular with him. It's okay. Early on.
As you can.
It wasn't because I was trying to be mean. I was trying to push him to get to another level. And he got to another level pretty fast. It had nothing to do with me. It had a whole lot to do with him. But I would also tell you this, Chris is really cerebral. He's a really smart person. He's not just a great athlete, he's a really smart, cerebral guy. And I think you'll find that out once he comes on in the interview.
For sure. Well, before we get to that, let's talk about some Four Nations face-off news right now. Pierre, of course, the championship game is set, USA and Canada at TD Garden on Thursday. And some news for everyone out there, too, regarding us. If you weren't watching the end of the show yesterday, but we are going to go 5 to 7. We've been doing 6 to 7 at West End Johnny's at 138 Portland Street in Boston, down the street from the Garden. But we have decided, because we love Johnny and we love the bar so much, and we love all the fans that have been coming out and saying hello and enjoying all the hockey talk, we're going to tag on an extra hour and do a 5 to 7 pregame before the 8 p.m. puck drop. Some news late last night, Pierre, as a lot of people are probably on their way home or going to bed. Defenseman Charlie McAvoy for USA and obviously the Boston Bruins taken to Mass General Hospital. There's various reports going on that it was an infection as a result of an upper body injury. The team did not confirm that. They just termed it an upper body injury. They did confirm, however, that he was at Mass General. From what I'm told right now, he is still there, but I don't have any other details, and we're not going to speculate on what it might be. But the one thing, Pierre, that this, and of course some other injuries, there were some guys that got banged up last night for USA, but it looks like everybody else will play. Brady Tkachuk, and I forget who the other guy was. I apologize.
Austin Matthews didn't play. Matthew Tkachuk didn't play.
Yeah. Well, they didn't play. Yeah, but I mean, in the game, there were a couple guys too. But I mean, Mike Sullivan said, with the exception of Charlie McAvoy, it looks like everybody's pretty much a go.
Yeah, Trocheck got slashed in the hand.
That's what I was thinking of. Thank you.
So his finger was a little bit nicked up. He played the rest of the game, but he definitely got hurt. He got slashed on the hand pretty good.
But this is going to, and it already is, I shouldn't say it's going to, it already has once again sparked up the conversation, Pierre, of, the Olympics are one thing, but is something like this worth it, taking that risk? Because if you think about the Boston Bruins and the situation they're in right now, where they're fighting for their playoff lives, they're clawing to get into that wild card spot down the stretch run here with about 25 games left. And now they lose Charlie McAvoy. They're supposed to get Hampus Lindholm back. He was not on the ice for practice, but skated afterwards today. Didn't sound like anything major, but they're expecting to get him back soon. But now all of a sudden, it's like you're trading McAvoy out for Lindholm, where they haven't really been able to play with them together except for 1 month, the first month of the season. You take away McAvoy from that lineup for the stretch run, if it's something serious, Pierre, I'm sorry, I just don't see them making the playoffs.
No, me neither. Don't forget, you lost Grizzly for nothing last year too.
Yep.
He moved on too. So you got issues. You got big issues, and that's a big problem. The depth problem is a big problem with this group on defense in particular. Look, I didn't think the Bruins were a lead pipe cinch to make the playoffs when the season started. You know that. And the injuries have hurt them. The Lindholm injury really hurt them. Lack of depth down the middle has hurt them. Swayman's holdout hurt them. There's no question. Yeah. And it hurt him too. So there's a lot of moving parts here. And everybody, I've been in the rink a lot here in Boston the last little while. Man, oh man, people are mean. Like, okay, I know Donnie Sweeney's a GM. I get it. Okay, I totally. And for all those people that want to say hi, I appreciate it. It really means a lot. And I ask every one of them. I don't just walk away. I sit there and I talk and shake hands, and I want to hear what you have to say. But I get it. You're mad at Don Sweeney. I get it. I totally get it. But this isn't all on him. It's just not all. This is not all on him.
No, it's not. I agree with you on that. And it's a frustrated fan base right now. I think part of it, and we've had this discussion before, is, and look, I'm from the area, and I'll admit this too. When I grew up, I think I saw the Celtics championships. That was about it until I was 25 years old and the Patriots won a Super Bowl. It was just Larry Bird and the Celtics for me, that little dynasty there. But, since 2002, when the Patriots won that Super Bowl, this has been title town, and, everything goes in cycles. And unfortunately for the Boston fan base, it's going the other way now. And I understand they're having a tough time grappling with that. But look, this is the NHL, man. And as we've seen with that tight wild card race, Pierre, the parity's never been stronger in the NHL.
Well, I told a fan yesterday, who's passionate, really, and in a good way, passionate. I said, look, the Bruins are cycling at the wrong time in a downward way. And the reason why is Buffalo's getting better, Ottawa's getting better, Detroit's getting better, Montreal's getting better, Florida's not going anywhere anytime soon, Tampa's not going anywhere anytime soon. So you look at the Atlantic Division, who's the one team that's fallen back? It's Boston.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, all these other teams, and they're all loaded with prospects, and you can't say that about, Boston.
Yeah, and that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to replenish the system and build from within again, and we'll see what they can do or who does it. That's yet to be determined. Don't forget the Montreal Canadiens too, Pierre. They're coming as well. Interesting how they handle the rest of this. This one, I know it's a little off topic, but I wanted to get, you know what, though? We've got Chris right now. I'm going to save that thought because I do have a good Canadiens question for you later. But let's bring in the Hall of Famer right now, former NHL defenseman Chris Pronger and Stanley Cup champion, as we said, triple gold winner. Chris, how are you today, my friend?
Awesome. How you guys doing?
We're great. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good to see you, Chris.
Good to be seen.
Yeah. Chris,
where are you right now? Are you in California, in Missouri? Where are you?
I'm in St. Louis right now.
St. Louis, you're in
Snowy
Missouri.
St. Louis.
Oh, yeah? You've
Yeah.
been getting the same weather as us. Are you getting those winds too?
Yeah, it's hit or miss, but the cold and the snow have been a little abnormal for St. Louis.
I hear you. Chris, we were just talking about the Four Nations face-off, and let's just get right into that. What's been your take so far? Well, first off, what did you think about it going in, and has it changed your mind or reasserted what you felt?
No, I thought these guys were going to go hard. I thought they were going to play at a high level. You look at the names involved in the event, you knew they were going to be playing at a high pace. It's frenetic at times. I think Canada, the first few games looked like they were shot out of a cannon. And then the second periods, they struggled to keep that pace over the 60 minutes. But I think all of the games have been well received. And I think from a product standpoint, competitive. I think when you look at especially these four nations, no pun intended, Sweden, Finland, Canada, and U.S. have a lot of parity. Everybody sees the term and think, oh my God, Canada, but these other three nations are very good in their own right.
Yep.
You've been such a big part of the Canadian infrastructure going back. Forget the World Junior. Let's just start 98, 02, 06, 10, lots of different times. Can you take us inside the Team Canada dressing room, what it's like at an international event?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, especially for me with the way I played, the first few days you're kind of feeling your way out. You're trying to mend a few fences and, get to know guys a little bit. You're usually butting heads a lot. So it's a matter of just finding the chemistry. A lot of times, as we know, there's so many players to choose from that in Canada, you don't always have that same team over and over and over again. There's players in and out. And so when I talk about finding chemistry, I mean, a lot of these guys have never played together. Mm-hmm. Some of them don't even know each other. And so getting that balance, finding the chemistry and seeing who's going to gel. I mean, we can look at a piece of paper and go, oh my God, this guy's going to fit perfectly with that guy. But until they get on the ice, and frankly, they didn't hardly have any time to practice. So, they're figuring out in the game situation in a game setting, and it can be a little daunting at times and challenging for the coaching staff to figure out. But they're using the first couple games to look at different matchups. It doesn't hurt when Theodore goes out in the beginning of the first game, and then McGuire gets sick, and now you're behind the eight ball with respect to defense. Everybody wants to start poking fingers at Binnington, but he's been adequate. He want one or two goals back here or there, but in no regard, in my mind, has he been the reason. Yeah. And oh, by the way, they're 2-1.
Yeah. Hey, Jimmy, before you get there, Chris will remember this. In 02 in Salt Lake City, Curtis Joseph was a starting goalie. He didn't have a real good game, and Marty Brodeur came in. And then you go to 2010, and Marty Brodeur was the guy, and he didn't have a real good game, and Luongo came in. I'd like to talk to Chris about that. how hard is it when you have to make goalie changes in the middle of a tournament like that?
Yeah, and I think when you look at especially this tournament, there has been question marks about all of their goalies, let alone Binnington, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
You look at from a statistical standpoint, Thompson and Washington and on and on and on these aren't our best goalies. Well, unfortunately, these are the goalies that are there. These are who they get to choose from.
Mhm.
And you have to work with what you got. And after that first game, when they figured out finally in the end to get that win against Sweden, they lose a heartbreaker to the U.S. where he played pretty well. He wouldn't want that first one back, but I don't think people realize how good of a goal that second one was from Larkin.
Yeah.
Like that was a quick release,
100%.
a bullet, low blocker, above the pad. Like that is not an easy goal to stop.
No.
And oh, by the way, if you look at one of the goals from Finland the other day, I think it was Lindell's.
It
picked
was.
the same spot.
Mhm.
Same spot.
Yeah.
I mean, that is one of the hardest spots for a goalie to stop. I seem to recall scoring on a penalty shot in the Stanley Cup Finals in that same location. So I know a little bit about that weakness on most goalies, but as far as like putting the goalie in, taking him out, switching up the goalies, at no point do I think it was at all his fault.
Mhm.
Could he have made more saves? He made the saves he had to make in the Sweden game to get the victory.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they had a couple different mistakes happen on the second goal that gave the U.S. the lead, and they had 30 minutes or so to get another one to tie it, and weren't able to muster much. So I don't know if I'd blame that on the goaltender. And going into that U.S. game, were they going to go with Hill? Were they going to go with Montembeault, whomever? I don't know if you can do that because he wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And if they lose the next game with Hill and you go back to Binnington, well, now what?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Great point.
Right. And then in the Finland game, oh, well, do they go with Hill again? I go, okay, great. But if they lose,
Mhm.
you've gotten this far with the one guy. Why would you even think about changing?
Yeah. I'm with you on that. And as Pierre pointed
You're
out,
throwing Hill to the Wolves too, by the way. He hasn't.
Yeah.
It's one thing to practice, and they really didn't because they don't need to, and so he's not really getting shots. And now you're going to throw him in that pace, and that it's not
Pierre
easy.
died. Yeah.
No.
And as Pierre's pointed out too, and he references 2019, Chris. I mean, Binnington's a battler. Like he's the type of guy who, like you said, okay, lets in a bad goal, but then as the game goes on, he finds his way, and he can do so well with the stick handling and help his defenseman out. And
And that's it. The way he plays the puck, he's like a third defenseman back there, and he's able to take a lot of pressure, especially with McGuire out of the lineup.
Mhm.
Takes a lot of pressure off the defenseman to go back, pick it up, figure out who they got to get. They get it, and they're looking up ice. They're able to make a quick transition play, and they're gone.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I hear it. Okay, so today after practice, Chris, now everybody's still talking about what happened at the beginning of the USA-Canada game the other night at the Bell Center, and rightfully so. I mean, it took everybody by surprise. It was exciting. The place was rocking. It's getting news and national media. Other sports are talking about it. Maybe we should make our All-Star game like that. But, as they admitted, it was staged. It was planned. And Brandon Hagel.
Well, it was planned on one side. It wasn't planned on the other side.
Yes, exactly. And so Brandon Hagel had a great quote today after practice. He had this to say about the group chat plan to do that off the get-go in that game. Let's go to that quote.
From your side and their side.
No, I think it's going to be the same way. I think it's two countries. Listen, what happened the other night, I think I did it for the flag and not for the cameras.
I love that quote. I don't know about you, Chris, but I love it. I think it's a subtle little shot across the bow there heading into this final game. What's your take on that?
No, I think the Canadians, I heard Sam Bennett say something similar. I think it might have been yesterday. I don't foresee fireworks like that happening from the drop of the puck. I think that was a message being sent. We're here to play. We're going to push you around. You guys don't have what we have. And they answered the bell. And when you look at the response after those fights, Canada gets a first goal. They're kind of rolling. And it wasn't until late in that first period that they got the Gensel goal to get it tied before they go in for the intermission. So you could almost say it backfired a little bit, but I get the idea of what they were doing, the Tkachuk boys and Miller. I understand it. They're trying to put a statement on this game. I would argue that they were one game too early. You might want to do that in the championship game when it really matters. But we'll see what happens. I mean, we'll see.
Chris, I've been saying this. I was curious what you would think when we found out you were coming on with us. Everybody's talked about this being an international hockey event. I never saw it as that. I saw it as an NHL event played in an NHL building environment with NHL officials and every player being an NHL player.
And NHL rules.
Yeah, with NHL rules. I thought Canada miscalculated by not having Tom Wilson and Adam Lowry on there. And I'll tell you why. Because Wilson is the ultimate nuclear deterrent. And you know how much I like that side of the game. You and I were very similar with that. And so I didn't understand Canada's mindset on that, Chris. And I don't know if you think there's a spot in the tournament or not for something like that, but I was curious what you thought.
Well, I made this analogy yesterday to somebody. It's like 2002 when the Team USA left Darian Hatcher off their roster.
There you go.
Great call.
For that specific reason, we get into the game, the gold medal game against them.
I was doing
Darian Hatcher.
No Hatcher.
We pushed him around. Eric Lindros and all, Brendan Shanahan and all Jerome McGinley, all our big guys.
Hey, Michael Pekka was smacking guys.
Running around, playing physical, and they had no deterrent. They had nothing really coming back the other way in that regard on the back end.
Yeah.
So it just, I think the Wilson was a mistake. And for, I don't know what they would have debated, whether they thought maybe take dumb penalties or, whatever. But I think knowing NHL officiating, NHL rules, NHL rink, on and on and on, I mean, it just sets up so well for them. And knowing the U.S. is the team they're going to need to beat. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, the one thing that they need is physicality in that game, knowing who they're going to pick. I don't know about Adam Lowry, maybe size-wise, but, I think the guys that they picked, frankly, are okay outside of Wilson. You put Wilson in there and everybody moves into their right positions as it relates to physical play. You don't need 3 or 4 guys like that. You need one.
Yeah.
In a tournament like this, with one team you're really eyeing up in that regard, you need one player that plays that brand of hockey that, as you say, can be a nuclear deterrent or can be the dynamite waiting to be lit, whatever you want to call it. But I think that's the one. I agree. Everybody, and obviously everybody's been saying it, and I mean, I'm sure he's a missed opportunity. But I also think that a lot of the picks were, let's take a look at some of these guys for the Olympics. I don't think they were even thinking it was, whether they didn't think it was going to be this competitive or they didn't think it mattered that much. Frankly, I don't know, because I wasn't in the room. But I think it was a missed opportunity taking him. And by the way, he might play in the Olympics because he's a good skater. I don't think people realize how good a skater Tom Wilson is. It's not like he can't skate.
Yeah. No, he can score too. Chris, you brought up maybe they did it a game too early, and that was a case for you guys in 2010 in the Olympics. USA beat you in the round robin, then you came back and beat them when it counted. What was it, if you can take us back and take us inside the dressing room, the mindset coming out of that loss and how you carried it into the next game against USA?
Well, it wasn't so much losing. It was the verbal, like they thought they had won everything.
Yeah.
Like it just, I remember Ryan Kessler was running his mouth and, they had a few guys and I'm just like, this is the round robin. Like, you didn't, so it just, it always, it sat in our craw a little bit and guys, I got a memory like an elephant. I remember what somebody did to me in kindergarten. So, something that says in the media and, especially, saying, making commentary about a game that mattered to a certain degree, but wasn't to win anything.
Yeah.
At that stage of the tournament, you're just making a mental note, tucking it in the little mental Rolodex, and waiting for the moment when you can bring out, sorry, picked the wrong door today.
Hey, Jimmy, I'll tell you this. Chris was on the ice. Canada started a line in the quarterfinal game against the Russians in 2010. It had Mike Richards, Jonathan Toews, and Rick Nash. And they put the puck in Sergei Gonchar's corner. I don't know if you remember it, Chris, or not. And Nash almost killed Gonchar. It was savage. And what was this? I think it was an 8-2 or 8-3 game.
Yeah, it might have been 8-1 or 8-2. We beat
it was a blowout. It was a big number. And it all started from the first shift. And I was between the bench and I'm going, this reminds me of the 05 World Junior when Brent Sutter was coaching and Ovechkin and Malkin just got destroyed the whole game.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, and that's and that's what people also don't realize is when these teams get put together, that was one of our checking lines. Toews, Richards, and Nash.
Wow.
So people have to realize that there needs to be buy-in, but it also you got to get comfortable. You're used to providing the offensive production for your team, and now you're in a different role. Yes, you want to score goals, you want to do this, but you're also sending messages and trying to play physical and trying to grind on the opposition's top line and things of that nature. So the game within the game, people have to understand. It's not just you're not just flipping a switch. You have to get your mind wrapped around it, and you have to understand what it is you need to do to help the team be successful.
Well,
Chris, switching gears, what's your take on the game right now, on the NHL and where it's gone? Obviously, it's grown a lot. It's getting more popular down in the States, obviously. But just where do you think the game is right now, and what do you think it needs to do to keep going further?
Well, I think moments like we just had are huge for the game. I would love to see, maybe not to that level. The pace is not going to be there, but the physicality can be to a certain extent. There's a lot of games it's the NHHL, the no-hit hockey league.
Yeah.
And, I think we need to get back to not running around with our heads cut off, but playing with a little physicality, finishing some checks and separating guys from the puck. I absolutely hate the fact that somebody hits somebody with an clean open ice body check or a clean check, and somebody's got to friggin' drop their gloves. It used to be you told your teammate, get your head up.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a dirty hit, fine, go fight the guy.
Right.
But every time you make a clean hit, you got to fight somebody for what?
Yeah.
It's in the rule book. Give me a break. It's so dumb.
Hey,
so
Jimmy.
dumb. By the way, if you want to play physical, go hit somebody else. Go hit their star player.
Take a number and get him later.
Jimmy,
yeah.
I've told you a million times how much I like him.
Yep.
One of the things I did when he was 19 years old in the league, I put a really old gray beard, tough guy who was respected named Brad McCrimmon as his partner. Oh. And I'm just telling you, it's for that because he played like that. And I wanted guys to make sure that when they came after him, Beast was there and had the street cred. And Chris and Beast were amazing together. They were so good together.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that like playing with him?
Oh, he was awesome. Not only my D partner, my
roommate.
My roommate on the road. I did everything with the Beast.
I need this guy looked after.
He had to drag me along for every friggin' meal. He was like, oh my God. It was awesome. We'd break out all the salt shakers and every sugar packet. We'd be going through how to break the trap and the 1-2-2 and all the
That's great.
The wait staff was probably looking at us like, what are these guys doing?
Yeah. So I used to do that with Scotty Bowman all the time when I worked for him. It was the same deal, and that's how it get passed along. So, Jimmy, I just want to say this. I've never rehearsed this show with you or anybody else, including Chris. I'm going to say this. Chris, you can get mad at me. You've been mad at me before. I think you should be running Hockey Canada, or I think you should be running an NHL team. And I say that with the utmost respect for everybody that's got a job in Hockey Canada. I think you would be the most eloquent person to take that program over. I mean that sincerely.
Well, thank you. I don't foresee that happening.
You should.
Well, as you know, I don't politic well, so.
No, you don't need to. They should be wise enough to call you. You're as
Well,
motivated as any player that's ever played. You are.
well, thank you. I don't foresee that happening, but we've seen crazier things happen. But there's certainly, I think, at the minor hockey level and junior level, there needs to be something. There needs to be a change in how we're developing these kids, and I think at too young an age, there's an emphasis on everybody's going to be generational talent. Everybody's there's like, give me a break.
It's the
Like,
YouTube.
they don't grow on trees. Like, everybody's generational talent. Like, give me a break.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's not that simple, and it's almost like we're taking the fun out of the game. What happened to all the people? Like, I got buddies that play, they're 60 years old, they still play because they love the game, because of what was instilled in them at a young age when they're playing minor hockey, and the fun that they had and the friendships they made and the social interactions. You know, hockey has become incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the drawbacks and deterrents. You know, I was kicking tires with somebody about, you know, some type of development program just to get the top guys together, much like the US, but not to that level where they make a team. But whether you have a summer program and bring them all together and you can train and they can still do all the things that they do, bring in a top trainer and just put some money towards developing players and teaching them the hockey side of the game, not how fast to stick handle and skate and shoot, all that stuff, but the actual game itself. That's where I think was always Canada's number one attribute, was our hockey sense and our ability to understand the gamesmanship and that side of the game. And we're losing that a little bit. And we have to find that and get it back.
One thing I want to say on that note too, before we let you go, Chris, I really enjoyed following you on social media because of the motivational posts you have up there and just the advice you give people. I've talked to some kids, turned them on to it, and they love it as well. Are you doing that outside of social media as well now? Do you go around and speak, or?
Yeah, I've about 18 months ago, I started building out a speaking platform and really kind of digging into what I felt like, number one, I was a subject matter expert in, but also my life experiences and how people could learn from the mistakes that I've made, and I made quite a few, and the positives too, and the successes that I've had, and how they kind of marry one another. Without the adversity and the challenges and the mistakes and the failures, you don't have the opportunity to have success. And too often, I think we want to go through life without failing. And we see that with these kids that play hockey now. The game of hockey is a game of mistakes. You're going to fail. It's what you do afterwards that matters. And I think that's where things are getting lost. Everybody thinks they're going to be perfect. You can strive to be perfect, but you're never going to attain perfection.
No. Great stuff. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Chris.
Hey, Jimmy, one second.
The game on Thursday, huh?
1 second. I just got to tell him something. I've known you a long time. I've never been more proud of you. Way to go.
Thank you.
Really, really proud of you.
Good stuff. Thanks a lot, Chris. We appreciate it. We'll get you on again down the line, all right?
Enjoy Thursday.
That'll be a good one. I'll be texting with you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hall of Famer Chris Pronger joining us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. Pierre, he's a good one. I mean, he knows I was pretty tough on him at the beginning, and I went to Brad McCrimmon and I said to Beast, I said, look, you understand what we're trying to do? And he says, absolutely. I said, you have your own room on the road. Would you give it up to be his roommate? He goes, if I'm his roommate, he's going to have to live my lifestyle. And I said, that's why I want it to happen. I said, I'm going to play you with him too. And they did. And one day, I forget if we were in Montreal or Quebec. It was tough weather. And Beast, hey, Pierre, can I talk to you? I said, yeah. I thought he was going to say something to me. And he said, I broke in some pretty good players. I was partners with Mark Howe. I was partners with Raymond Bork. I was partners with a guy named Nick Lidstrom. Yep.
He said, I broke in some pretty good players. He goes, this guy's right up there.
Yeah.
I said, I'm pretty well aware of that. That's why you're going to be looking after him.
And I like what he says there too about, that too much pressure is on perfection. I really agree with that. You're going to make mistakes. He's exactly right. In life as well. And If once you're able to accept that and learn from it, I think that's when you succeed. But Pierre, you keep apologizing. I was hard on him. But that's what people need sometimes, Pierre. I mean, as long as player's not going to take it personally, you know what I mean?
No, well, he's young when that
depends
happened.
on the person. Yeah,
we're really good now. But I'm sure there was no Christmas card coming for me. You get that. That's part of what you got to do to coach too, to make guys better. We had a lot of young guys, so you push to make them better. But I can tell you, the visit I had with him in 2002 after they won in Salt Lake was amazing. I was really blessed to be invited to the Team Canada victory party, and he was there with his family and Michael Pekka and Mario, obviously. Yeah. And then 2006 didn't go well. 2006 was not good in Torino. It was bad. No. And then you win in 2010, and that's his last one. And I could just tell, like, he was the grandfather of that team. He was the guy. You just heard – he remembered – the shift in the Russia game. And we, like I said, we don't rehearse the show. Yeah. And he said, that was our checking line. I said, yeah, Rick Nash, Jonathan Toews, and Mike Richards was their checking line. Yeah.
And I love how I remembered Kessler chirping. I love that he admits that, Pierre, I get it. I get it. A lot of the kids today, the players today, so trained to be vanilla and to not say anything that potentially could be controversial. But him saying right there, you're damn right we use that as fuel. We stuck that away and we applied it when we faced them next. So
I told you the story many times, and I really like the kid, Maxime Lapierre. I like him a lot. He was playing in Vancouver in 2011, and he and Marchand were getting after one another during TV timeouts. And I just looked at the Bruins bench, and these guys wouldn't shut up. And it was getting nauseating because obviously bad language. My mic is open, and I got to push my talk back so nobody at home. I'm trying to keep it as clean, PG as possible. And finally, I looked at Mark Recchi and I said, "Hey, can you tell the bird brain to shut up?" And he said, "Yeah, I will, because it isn't really appropriate." No, but yeah, I mean, stuff like that happens.
Well, and as we know, the Bruins definitely use the stuff that happened those first two games in Vancouver. The Bruins don't do what they did on home ice. If not for that, they use that as motivation for sure.
No, and that's the Aaron Rome hit too. Don't forget that hit.
In Game 3,
that was pretty significant too.
They like to say, "Don't poke the bear," and that's what they took from there. But all right, a great interview there, and big thanks to Chris Pronger for joining us. Thanks to Pierre for setting that up. Let us tell you about our wonderful sponsors, TCS Customs and Logistics. You can unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting, TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For a no obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. And of course, our wonderful gambling sponsor, Betway. You can go right now, bet the beauties with Betway, join the action and go all the way, where you can get a free bet up to $200 if your bet loses. That's right. You read that right. A free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. Scan the QR code right in front of your scan, or click the link in the details section on the website to create an account and redeem your welcome offer now. It is only available for new customers. It is not available in Ontario. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 18 plus, and please play responsibly. No sick pick of the night tonight. There's no game. We'll have one back, and there won't be one tomorrow. I'll start to maybe research some props for you guys out there. Maybe I'll give you those tomorrow, and then I'll give you my pick on Thursday. I will say, and I'm not going to say it here, but I disagree with some picks I heard today. I don't know. This game is I don't think it's going to go quite like the first game. I agree with Chris. I don't think we're going to see those fireworks off the get-go. So
No.
I agree with that. But we'll get into that more tomorrow. And then when we are broadcasting live, once again, 5 to 7 p.m. from West End Johnny's, 138 Portland Street, right down the street from the Garden. I cannot wait to be there again, Pierre. And like you were saying earlier, Pierre, I mean, and I'm not just saying this because you're my partner, my friend, but I was so impressed with the way you do take time, because Pierre had people coming up left and right, even on the show when we're live, and you do take time to not just say, yeah, thanks. Some people will do. You take the time to listen to them, to talk hockey with them. And a lot of people actually, when you aren't around, the other night up at McLean's Public House, want to give them a big thanks as well. 1420 Peel Street in Montreal. The Saturday when you had to go home to watch Ryan play, Tons of people were coming up saying, tell Pierre thank you. We really appreciate the time he takes to talk hockey and to spread the game. So
that's really nice of them, Jimmy, and that means a lot that you would share that, and I appreciate it. I just love doing it. It's a passion I have. I always remember when I was a kid growing up, I had a chance to meet John Belleville, and he didn't say, get out of here, kid. He talked to me. I had a chance to meet Gordie Howe, and he talked to me. I had a chance to meet Bobby Orr, and he talked to me. And I'm nowhere close to those guys. And if they can do it, why can't I? I remember coaching in Pittsburgh, and Arnold Palmer used to come to our games.
Oh, wow.
And he would sit in the office, and he would want to see what we're trying to watch on tape. And, you didn't call him Arnie or Arnold. You called him Mr. Palmer. That's what everybody did, And I'm breaking down tape, and I'm going, Arnold Palmer's sitting right next to me, and he had time to talk to everybody. So if those men who are larger than life could do it when they were living, well, I think those of us that love the game can still do it too. And I'll never, ever not talk to somebody, But my point about that was, I get people's frustration with Donnie Sweeney. I totally get. I have nothing to do with that. I didn't have anything to do with it. And Donnie's, truth be told, Donnie's somebody that I know, and I've known a long time, and I get along very well with him. But I didn't put him in power.
Yep, I hear you. It's a tough position sometimes. I get it, but it's true. Like Pierre, and we'll move right to the Q&A in a second. I remember when I was young, my dad said, never meet your heroes because you'll always be let down. And that's a famous saying, and luckily for the most part, he's been wrong, but there's been times where he was right. But, I thought of that when I was seeing you talk to all those kids and everything, and to other people that have watched you on TV. It means a lot. And I know that when people meet somebody that they see on TV a lot, or they're watching play the game, and then they're able to just sort of shoot the breeze, on a common level, it means the world to people. So good on you, and good on all the other athletes and celebrities that do that. All right, let's get to the Q&A. Alex Ivanowski, what's up, Alex? Who's the next Chris Pronger in the NHL? Good question. Apropos, do you think today's defensemen are missing that nastiness to them like so many had 10 to 20 years ago? I know I miss it. Chris could do it all. I'm not comparing him to Chris Pronger. Obviously, he's not nearly as big, different style, but I love the nastiness when he's on that Charlie McAvoy brings, or a Drew Doughty, Pierre. But, I mean, there's a different breed of nastiness, so to speak.
Doughty played a little bit with Chris in 2010 at the Olympics. There's a great picture we had on tape, and we showed it. There was a song being played in the building during TV timeouts, and rather than get really intense and pumped up, Drew Doughty was on the ice dancing to it in the middle of the gold medal game.
I love it.
And I looked over at Pronger one time, and he's like, what the heck? So, it's hard to say. Chris was a unicorn. I can say that really comfortably.
Yep.
He said all these everybody's a generational player. I can tell you, Chris Pronger was a generational player, and they don't make them like that. I haven't seen anybody like that. Hey, Lidstrom was his own guy. Raymond Bourque was his own guy. Paul Coffey was his own guy. Larry Murphy. They were all amazing players. All of them in the Hall of Fame. All of them are in the Hall of Fame. All of them. But they were all different.
Yeah.
Murphy wasn't Bourque, and Bourque wasn't Coffey, and Lidstrom wasn't either one of those guys. And Christopher Pronger's not like any one of them.
No.
They're all like Scotty Stevens wasn't like those guys. Al McInnes was different than those guys.
Yeah.
So, I get Alex's question, Jimmy. I don't see anybody like Chris. I just, I could say so one guy big like him. I think that Vlasic kid in Chicago could eventually become something like that, but I don't see. I watched him play at BU. He's not tough like Chris. I'm just sorry, he's not.
I love what Chris said there, and what Alex is saying too, echoing it, where he was like, let's get that nastiness back. Let's get that physicality. It doesn't have to be dirty. We can play clean physically. And I do think there's a little of that missing. And I think that these games, that USA-Canada showed that we still can have it. So, All right, next question. Postnet on 130. Is this Four Nations one and done event? What happens next year? Olympics next year, Postnet on 130. And then they're going back to the World Cup. Yet to be determined on number of teams. And then they're going to rotate every 2 years.
A lot of this comes down to what's going to happen with Russia. The Russian stuff is pretty substantial. Let's see it. Let's see how it plays out.
All right. Next question. Sound the siren. Guys, after seeing the U.S.-Canada game, got 4.4 million viewers, 5.2 million peak. How can the NHL piggyback on this potential for new hockey fans or viewership? It's, you know what? I think they can, but I think the biggest key, and this kind of sounds like the opposite because you're talking about new fans and new viewership. Don't forget your roots. Don't stop being who you are or what you are. I think that's been one of the biggest problems I vented to you about this, Pierre, is that the NHL, for whatever reason, and I get it, you have to do some things to bring in new viewership, bring in new fans, but they focused like 90% on new and this 10% on what they already had, and they kind of forgot the people that got them to where they were. Don't forget your roots would be my advice.
That's well said. It's a good, fair question, too. I just want to put this in perspective for people so they understand this. The World Junior ratings, and I know the NHL is all hot and bothered by the number, and it's a tremendous number, and they should be. World Junior numbers in Canada for gold medal games dwarfs that number.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so have some Stanley Cup finals, and so have some Olympics.
So it's great. It's a great one-off on a Saturday night when there's no NBA, there's no NFL, there's no Major League Baseball. I'm thrilled. I think for somebody that really cares about the growth of the game and the growth of TV, I think it's awesome. But I also want to be fair and tell you that number, as nice as it looks, if you put that in perspective with a World Junior gold medal game in Canada. So
I get you. All right, next question. Phil to Spare. Why do hockey fans and most all media have no respect for defensive players? Why do you think guys should be paid only by point production? You need face-off wins and shut down guys like Jake Evans. Phil to Spare, I know where you're coming from, but I think there has been a little more appreciation, for that type of player over the last 3 to 5 years, I'd say. We've seen some, middle six guys get paid pretty handsomely.
The biggest argument I have with scouts and evaluators of talent is they use numbers to do everything rather than use their eyes. And that's why we call the show the eye test.
Yeah.
And Jimmy knows a bunch of players. I point them out to him in all these games. I said, that kid should play in the NHL. That kid should play. And he's like, well, Pierre, that no points. I'm like, they don't need points.
Yeah.
They can affect the outcome of a game in a positive way without scoring. So filterless bear, you and I are on the same page.
Yep.
I grew up watching Doug Riseborough. I grew up watching Doug Jarvis. I grew up watching really good defensive player to make a big difference for elite Montreal Canadian teams. I'll never forget. Randy Gillen is one of my all-time favorites. I had the privilege of working with him. He was a face-off demon. He's a shorthanded specialist. Never got points, but so valuable to our team.
Yeah.
So, I'm with you on that.
For sure. All right, next question. A to Z me. Team USA has a bunch of players with question marks for Thursday. Most will play, but how effective will they be? You know what, A to Z me, I understand your question completely, totally respect it. I just think the momentum of the game, like getting up for what it means, they'll get into it. They'll numb the pain. My question is, how effective they're going to be on Saturday or Sunday or Monday when they get back to their normal NHL team.
Yeah, but you know what? I get your point too, but you don't want to put the cart before the horse. I totally see A to Z me's point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how hurt Brady is. It didn't look good. I was sitting in the building. I watched it happen. I was like, oh, that's not good. Mm-hmm. I don't know how bad Matthew Tkachuk is hurt. I don't know how bad Austin Matthews is hurt. Clearly they got, issues. Those three players, they're important players. Hey, listen, this has been a very pedestrian tournament for Austin Matthews.
Yep. And you wonder, Pierre, and this is just me speculating, we're not reporting anything, but you can't disregard the fact that he has dealt with some nagging injuries over the last 2 years.
Absolutely.
Did something get re-aggravated? So
we don't know. And that's why I'll never speculate. I taught Jimmy this when we started working together. It's the NBC model. You're not a doctor, you're an analyst. Don't try to play one on TV.
Yep. All right. Next question. Randy Workman. What's up, Randy? How far off am I saying Kevin Ball might be our best defensive D-man on the Calgary Flames?
So I'm a big Kevin Ball guy. The general manager that acquired him in New Jersey is a real good friend of mine, Ray Shiro. I think Kevin Ball's a real good player. I think he's a very defensive-minded player, very good at it. When he was hurt, Calgary wasn't as good. I still think Rasmus Anderson's probably your best defenseman. But no, Kevin Ball's a real good defensive defenseman. Absolutely.
Glad you brought him up. I'm really interested to see what happens with Anderson in the next few weeks. I'm the Flames. I sign him now. Do not trade him.
Yeah,
So we'll see what happens. All right, next question. Pizza 603. Good to be back in the 603. Hey, Jets, who has stuck out as unsung heroes so far in the Four Nations? For me, I didn't realize how good Slavin is. You're not the only one saying that right now, Pizza 603, and he's definitely stuck out. I heard Mike Sullivan talking about him today, and he just said he's one of those players that's never going to get you a lot of points. He's not going to end up on a score sheet all the time, but you don't win without players like him, and I thought that pretty much describes what he is.
I would completely agree. Braden Point, even though he's a star player in the league, when you put him on the line with McDavid and Stone, he's making a big difference. He made a massive difference yesterday. So I'm going to say he's one of those unsung heroes right now, but it's hard to say who's unsung. I mean, honestly, I would say Slavin would be one for sure. Brock Faber and Slavin are partnership for Team USA. They're both really good, obviously. The guy that I think could make a big difference in the game is Matt Boldy. We'll see. Yesterday he had some pretty fluid moments in the game. It didn't equate to anything offensively, but I'm watching. I'm going, okay, if he ever just one more half a gear, there could be fireworks with this guy.
Note that down. All right, next question. Bert L. Thoughts on Pronger's performance in the 2010 Cup Final and Chicago Tribune's infamous Chrissy Pronger poster?
Yeah. Whoever wrote that in Chicago is lucky that Pronger was a gentleman at that stage of his career. I thought Christopher was great in that final. Think about it. I said it
don't get there without him.
Not only that, but you think about that 2010 season. They had the Olympics in Vancouver. And a lot of people that are commenting on this stuff, they weren't there. I was there for every game. The pressure that was on Canada to win that one after the disaster that 06 in Torino was an unmitigated disaster for Hockey Canada. It was a disaster.
Yeah.
And, you got to remember, too, in the World Junior, Canada lost in Saskatoon on the golden goal by John Carlson. So it was a tough year for Hockey Canada in 2010 until they got to the Olympics when the women won and Marie-Philippe Poulin was unbelievable and the men won. And Christopher was a big part of that. Pronger was a big part of that.
All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, what do you think of this fourth line? Marchand, Carjay, Wilson, just begging anyone to mess with them. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I like it. I like it. That would be interesting for sure. I would take that line in a heartbeat in a playoff series. Yeah. All right, next question. Jack's thoughts on Bill Guerin on Fox News and that Canada becoming the 51st state is an inspiration. The American players, I don't really want to talk about
I didn't even know about this. I apologize. I don't know.
Apparently he did an interview on Fox News and he's invited President Trump to the game tomorrow and also said that they've been using his threats of annexing Canada as inspiration. I've only heard the thing about the invite, Pierre. I've not heard audio of him saying the whole thing about the inspiration, but I was just listening to our good friend Mitch Melnick, and he said, "Look, I want to hear the audio before I'm going to comment on that." So I
didn't even know anything about this. I apologize. Yeah. It's the first I've heard of this, so
I'll just take the high road. Not like I don't know enough about it to comment on it.
I'm just going to say Canada's Canada. Okay.
Yeah.
Canada's Canada. It's a country.
Exactly.
Country.
All right, next question. Ethan Russell, thoughts on Eichel and Matthews' defensive play? I thought we learned a lot in this tournament.
Well, Jack had a tough game last night, and I think part of that's because of all the injuries. Austin's really good defensively. I'll just tell you right now, Austin's really – I don't think he's had a great tournament. It doesn't mean that he's not a good player. I just don't think he's had a good tournament yet. He's been okay. He hasn't been a superstar.
Yep. All right, next question. Posting it on 130. How can the NHL keep the cost prices down on gate tickets? Are there other revenue streams that have not been tapped? It's a good question. I don't know the answer. Posting it on 130.
Yeah, streaming TV is they're looking at streaming as obviously being something, but I read something yesterday that was not good. So they advertise for people to come in and park at the TD Bank.
Yeah,
it was $65, but if you stayed for both games, they charge you $130. And I didn't like that debate and switch stuff. And I hear that and I'm like, that's got to stop. There are not a lot more revenue streams left. I mean, Jimmy and I were talking about the price of a hot dog, the price of a sausage, the price of a beer, the price of a Coca-Cola, the price of a coffee. At some point, people are going to turn the spigot off because they can't afford it anymore. You cannot. You got to feed your family. You got to pay your mortgage. You got to put gas in your car.
Yeah.
You got to buy clothes. There's a lot you got to do. And I think all sports are going to go to the back of the line. We got to find some semblance of normalcy here. And I'm tired of somebody, and I hear from a lot of people that are I'm a big fan of what's happening with the PA right now. I think that they're doing, Marty Walsh and his group are doing a really good job. I was with Ronnie Hainsey yesterday. I think Ronnie's doing a phenomenal job at the PA. But when I hear people say, there's no way you can equate the price of a ticket to the price of a player's salary, I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? How can you say that? And I'm hearing that from a lot of people, and I'm like, that's just rhetoric, because that's not true.
No, I agree. And by the way, right now, if you want to sit in a loge seat for Thursday night's game, it is over $5,000 to do so for one ticket. Just think about that. All right, next question. Marquise American, how many teams do the NHL want to add, and what cities do you think would be a good fit? I'm with Pierre, has been adamant about this. I think 2 teams are coming sooner rather than later, and I'm going to say Houston and Atlanta.
So I agree with Jimmy. I think we're going to have Houston and Atlanta.
I like our New Orleans idea, though. Put a team there.
I think it would be fantastic.
Let's get that going. Anyhow, all right, next question. Ethan Russell, what's up, Ethan? Is Ersson the future number 1 in Philly? Had a great game last night. I don't know, like who's the Russian kid here? It's escaping my head right now. That's really struggled this year.
There are 2 Russians there, and they both start with K. And Hudinov and somebody. I watch the games that they play, and I get it. So I think Ersson right now is probably their go-to guy, but they got 2 Russian guys there, so I don't know. That's part of what they're trying to accomplish. But I think they've taken strides over the last 2 years in Philly, very positive strides.
Yeah, that is something they need to improve, though. I think the goaltending's a focus in the developmental stage. All right, next question. Habinations, how come Boston is called Title Town? Well, we were actually just discussing that before, Habinations, because, I can't say off the top of my head. Let's see. Patriots 6, Celtics 2. Red Sox 4. Am I missing out? Bruins 1, all since 2002. So that would be why. they won a lot.
I always thought that Green Bay, Wisconsin was Titletown, USA. And I always thought that in Canada, Edmonton was, because of all the Grey Cups with the Edmonton Eskimos, who are not called that anymore.
No.
And with the Edmonton Oilers. So yeah.
I think it's all in the eye of the beholder and where you are.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, do you see Arseny Sergeyev 60-save performance against Notre Dame? Calgary Flames did. I did not see that.
I did not.
That's good. How about that BU goalie?
Yep. They got him out. They got him out of Omaha at the right time. He's coming in. Yeah.
And your pony there with Northeastern got Defensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, Quinn Sergers. Yep. Quinton. Yep.
Keep an eye on him. All right, next question. Sound the siren. Guys, the cost, unfortunately, is not just isolated to hockey. Elite youth sports, travel, etc., is just out of control. I don't know how you mitigate this other than it being torn down. That's a great point, Sound the siren.
Well,
it's not
part of it is all these travel teams.
Yep.
When I was a kid growing up, you played in your neighborhood and maybe you played in your city, but you weren't traveling, on airplanes or taking 10-hour car rides. Mm-hmm. All these travel team things. And sticks back when I was a kid were $5 to $7. You can get your skate sharpener for 75 cents.
That's
now. Not happening anymore.
It's unreal. We got to do something. All right, next question. Ethan Russell again. Any tips for what to look for when doing an eye test on a player? I'm trying to get farther into coaching.
Lots of tips. Watch for guys that win races for loose pucks. Watch for guys that know how to back check and establish body position. Watch for guys that have their sticks on the ice. Watch for guys that don't shy away from getting in the shooting lane to block shots. Watch for center icemen that come down low to help their defense. Watch for center icemen that know where to go to support on the breakout. Watch how guys establish cycle. Watch how guys establish forecheck. Things that numbers will never tell you. There's lots of little things that will tell you how to do that. And you know, over all the years, I always find something new about what makes a player better or makes a player not as good. So there's lots of little things.
Watch a game with Pierre. That's how you'll learn a lot. All right, next question. I think that might be it. It is. That is it.
How about Chris Pronger? That was good.
God, that was amazing. You're right. Really cerebral, too.
Trust me. He was 19 years old. He was sleeping on my couch in my house when we drafted him. And, you know, before training camp even started. And I could tell right away he's a really smart kid. His brother, Sean, played at Bowling Green. He was a very good player at Bowling Green.
Nice.
But Chris was always – he's a physical freak. So Chris Pronger is probably 6'6" and a bit. Back then, he probably weighed 195 to 200. And he has hands the size of a man, 5'11", and feet the size of a man, about 5'11". So that's one of the reasons why he looks so fluid.
Right.
He didn't have these big, you know, gunboats for feet, and he didn't have these long hands that were gangly all over. He was so fluid. It was amazing because he's a physical freak in a good way. He's one of those unique body types that was born with that, and he's so darn good at what he was. So good, Jimmy. I'm just telling you, he was. Someday, did I ever tell you the players that were offered to us? Did I ever tell you that story?
No, I don't. Oh, you have told me, and I'm not. But we're not allowed to say here.
No, we're not saying it. But the one trade, it was like we got offered two guys.
It was pretty interesting. I'll say that.
We had to really think about it. But I'm like, we can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, no. And eventually, like, I ended up moving on to Ottawa, and you know, new ownership came in, and they decided to move him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he was moved. Eventually, it led to Brendan Shanahan coming in there to Hartford, and then he didn't stay long, and then Primo. So eventually, it ended up being Keith Primo for for Pronger. But that's how the trade kind of sorted itself out. But it's kind of a
amazing
deal.
stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So, reminder: we will be back at West End Johnny's on Thursday, 5 to 7 p.m. Come join us if you're in the area. You're going to the game. Come on by. Great places we've been telling you. Really looking forward to being there again. The head of the NHLPA, Marty Walsh, will be swinging by as well, so you could meet him if you come down. And we will be talking to him about the state of the game and this tournament. Want to thank Chris Pronger for joining us here again on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. Thanks to our crew in the studio. Thanks to you, the viewers and the listeners, and for all the great questions. We appreciate it. We will be back here. We're doing this way tomorrow, Pierre. And then we will be on the road again, like I said, at West End Johnny's on Thursday. And then, of course, on campus Friday on Friday. And I'll have a little more of what I think is going to happen on Thursday tomorrow. I'll start to break it down a bit in the morning. But until then, everybody out there, get some rest because we got a big hockey game coming Thursday night. Thanks for listening to the Eye Test. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.